If you're someone like me who does not listen to Tierra Whack often, hearing them out of context, like a few songs I just heard, randomly, and I was just like, I don't know. I don't know about this. I don't want to listen to spoken word. I want to listen to music. Like, I want to dance. Or not dance. So like, I want to vibe. I'm Vesper Cognac. I'm a design strategist, and I teach you the strategy behind things that seem like chaos, coincidence, or luck. Tierra Whack is an American rapper and singer, and this Wax Museum mixtape dropped on Juneteenth 2026 is the second mixtape from Tierra Whack, and it comes after her debut studio album. And I want to clarify, this is not a review channel or a critique channel. It's just that these videos are quicker and easier to put out than my like fuller strategic analysis videos. Those take a lot of time and research to compile and put together, and this I can like crank out in like 2 days, 3 days. So this is not a review channel. If you have already heard my whole introduction and who I am and how I review things, and you can skip ahead to the actual review. But if you're new here, hello, hi, welcome. I have experience teaching motion graphics and web design at the college level, and part of that process we would do critiques where we share our work with each other and give each other grades. And I would give the students a rubric because I just like things to be clear. And as a part of universal design, making sure that the students or the person knows what they can anticipate during the process. My grading rubric is broken down into a few different sections. First, we have creativity and originality. This is all about whether or not the artist has a story that they're telling, and if they do, does it connect to the audience? Is it being presented in a unique way, or a way that is kind of like tailored to them? And then we have technical execution. So do they use the skills, techniques, tools that were available to them in a masterful way, creative way? And then we have presentation. So any type of marketing or campaigns or notifications prior to the release of this mixtape or album would be taken into consideration. And then lastly, we have file management and submission. In the digital era now, I take a look at whether or not all the songs are actually on a DSP, and I try to check Apple and Spotify to, cross-reference. And then as usual, I have notes. I'm a very analog person, so I will handwrite notes. We'll be going track by track while I'll be saying my thoughts and giving some relevant stories or opinions. So if you like strategic analysis, artistic critique, and a little bit of story time, then this video is for you, my fellow curious intellect. I usually don't listen to Tierra Whack. With this one, I did listen to the album like 2 or 3 times just to kind of acclimate myself to the sound, and so it's coming from that perspective. So now that we understand my framework and my point of view, let's get into it. This mixtape has 12 tracks and is 27 minutes long, and I do appreciate that she dropped it on Juneteenth. I think that was a nice touch to her overall concept or theme that I'm sensing. Throughout this mixtape, there's so many different Black cultural references that I'm not going to be able to touch them all, but I'll just talk about some of the ones that stood out to me specifically. The opening track is Whack Job, and I do like the title for it, and I like the theme. I do really like the production on this one. I like the distortion, and I like that it's like speeding up and slowing down through different parts of the song. And it's not only the underlying instrumental, but also her voice too is being distorted and modulated, I guess you could say, or changed around. And I do like that she opened the track with her talking about how people are telling her to rap more, because that's been in her own fan base a point of contention from what I've gathered. And I do like that she mentions a MoMA. It makes sense to have it on her Wax Museum, and I think it ties into the concept. I personally like to go to museums a lot as well, and I'm trying to get my daughter to go, so we'll go to museums occasionally with each other. She just mostly likes it for the gift shop, but we do get like really cool stuff. So like one time she got like a pearlescent watercolor tray. I was like, I really like this. I use it. She does have a line in here talking about being sick about the model rap, and I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later on in the video, but people are not understanding why more people are not talking about Tierra Whack compared to like, a Cardi B or a Lotto even. I thought it was just the mainstream female rappers, but we're starting to get a lot of these poop bars here. A lot of them. And I don't understand. I don't get this. If somebody in the comments can explain this like scat arc in hip hop, I don't know, especially in women's hip hop, women's rap, like I'm just not getting it. The second track of Wax Paper, I like that she mentions like Zeus and the baddies, because they have a range of baddies on that network that's kind of crazy. And Lemmy is just kind of weird to me, but we're not going to talk about that. And I do like the chorus talking about all about the Benjamins, because apart from that Mike Epps movie, that's kind of like really culturally significant song with Diddy and Lil Kim's verse on that song was like phenomenal. She has a line in here that says, say I'm uptight, now I'm not loose, something like that. So that's one thing that I do resonate with. People think that I'm very serious about stuff, and I am. and I am. But it doesn't mean that I can't have fun. It's just like I just don't be like fun with everybody, you know? Can't do that. And I do like that she promotes STD testing or like advocating for it. And track number 3, Brazilian Wax. I like that they use the vocals as a texture. I do like the horns too. I do like the Helvetica reference as a graphic designer. And she makes a line about Mark Twain. I'm from Connecticut. We have the Mark Twain house here. It's part of these like tours or these things that people were trying to promote here. So visit Connecticut. When she talks about like being in like people's top 5 was along with Meek Mill and Beanie Siegel, I was like, Meek Mill? Meek Mill? And then I was like, oh yeah, like he actually was like a really, really great battle rapper and a good rapper. But now all I know him is like, you know, one of Nicki Minaj's many goofy exes and as the pool fries weirdo. But I was like, nah, Meek Mill used to like really, you know, put in work. He, you know, he's just weird now. He's corny, but whatever. Happens to the best of us. She's like, I'm sorry for the wait, Arnold. And I was like, that's really cool. But every time I think of like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I just think of like the side kid he had with his like housekeeper or whatever. And then I think of this one line forever, forever, forever. When I started college, I really got into like the toxic bodybuilding.com forums. And like, I was really into that lifestyle for a while. If you want to talk about mental illness, I shouldn't joke, but like body dysmorphia is like really, really crazy. ED is like really crazy. And then after a while of thinking about it, I'm like, I'm sorry for the wait. I'm like, what is that? And then I'm like, oh, it's also a reference to like a Lil Wayne mixtape I used to listen to. His, like everybody else, used to listen to his mixtape series. For track 4, WIGGIDY Whack, I like that it's off the rip a crisscross type of reference. I was teasing my daughter the other day because she was putting her clothes on backwards, and I was like, you think you're in crisscross? And then sometimes whenever she messes up her hair, I call her Jim Jones. All right, again, another tangent. But this is one of the songs I first heard like out of context. And I really didn't like it because it sounded too slow to me. But in the context of the track listing, it sounds good and it makes sense. And this is the pacing that I was like hinting at earlier, where you'll have something that ends up on a high note and then you go back to something low and more smooth. But again, this is something that made me think it was spoken word, and she does, you know, do poetry and things like that. But that's what turned me off. It's like, I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to like a song. I do like the Cruella de Vil line because Cruella de Vil is like one of my favorite Disney characters. You know, she just did it for the love of the game being fashion. I do like the usurper line too, the usurper. I do like that kind of, you know, slickness. And then the Herschel Walker, the Herschel bag and counterfeit type thing. I really like that whole setup. But again, we're getting some type of poop bars here, and I don't understand what you guys are doing. I don't get it. You know, it's not for me. It's not for me. But for track 5, Totem, I really do like the different flow rhythms and like the sound that they create. And I feel like they complement the instrumental very, very well. And this is not as bad as the Lotto album I listened to a few weeks ago, but we're getting some repeated bars here. So this is the second time that she mentions like a felony or a misdemeanor line in that type of setup there. And I was kind of curious about the repetition of like misdemeanor and felony. Like I know she's inspired by, you know, Missy, but I'm like, I don't know what this is for. But I will say I do like the Big Stepper one line, so that kind of makes up for it. Track 6, GODDA, I really do like the idea of the song, so I like the chorus and I like the title of it. And this one, it feels like the most holistically like as a 90s sound, so it kind of reminds me of TLC too, maybe some Total. But sometimes the production works well with the vocals, but this time it feels like the production is slightly too loud compared to the vocals. Other times they're using the vocals as more of like a texture. It's more of an aesthetic choice. This one I feel like the instrumental was just slightly too high. Number 7, Siren. I do like the concept of the song too. I just don't like the R. Kelly line. Can we not do this as Black women? Can we not do this? And I'm just tired of Black artists in general like doing punchlines with trauma. Stop it. It's weird. I'm a sucker for a piano on a instrumental, on a beat. I love it. I love it. I feel like the piano is a very versatile musical instrument that you can get like a variety of different emotional ranges and sounds from. In this instance, it adds like motion and momentum without being like overwhelming, and it complements the singing that Tierra does here. And it gives me like some more jazz type vibes, and I like that. And I do like the inflection that she does towards the end, and I feel like that adds like more of like it makes me feel like I'm in a classy lounge in like Harlem, or like I should be in like Luke Cage. But again, we do have this shit in plunger line. Like I don't get it. I'm just not getting it. Track number 8, Candle Wax. I do like the concept, but I like the theme because the sound of the song creates like a texture that feels like it's melting. And so it feels like it reflects the idea of the song. This also kind of like signifies like a shift in the pacing of the album as a whole. I feel like this is a nice continuation of the song that was before it and that sound and kind of like dispersing it. But I feel like the vocals were too much of a texture to the point where I just didn't pay attention to any of the lyrics. So I didn't really notice anything. So I think that was kind of like detracting. It's like how much do you want to commit to like the concept. And then we have 9, Queen's Crown. It gives me that kind of like a gospel feel. It was a nice way to pick up the energy again. So again, I like the pacing throughout this mixtape. She mentions Killer Mike and Jay-Z. And then when she mentions Jay-Z, I'm like, that's what this song reminds me of. It reminds me of Song Cry. So I was like, oh, okay, that's really clever. That's really cute. She mentions 48 Laws of Power, you know. This is one of a few books that she mentions here. And then she also mentions Mark Zuckerberg, you know, making his mark. And, you know, whether you like it or not, it's factually correct. It's literally changed the world. Some would say for worse, but it's changed the world. Again, we have some more shit and fart bars. Okay. And then she ends at her nickname, the Waxster. It reminds me of like a person I used to work with. I used to work in like tech, and there was this white dude with an Acura, and his last name was Whack. And so he had a license that said Wackera. I was like, yeah, that's kind of dope though, I'm not gonna lie. Track 10, we have EARWAX. This is slowing down the album, and I can definitely sense that with this pacing here. And then again, I'm the shit. Can we find another thing to compare ourselves to besides feces? Please. Lord, I beg. All right. I do like the lettuce cabbage at the end. I think that was really cute. So 215 is a track that seems to be, you know, giving thanks and praise to in her faith, her God, her mother. She mentions another book called Art of Not Giving a Fuck here. I'm a person who reads these type of books. I didn't read this one because I heard some of the chatter about it, so I didn't read this one. But I read 48 Laws of Power, and I do like Robert Greene's books in general. And so a lot of, not only just on Twitter, but like a lot of an online discourse talks about people like myself and apparently Tierra Whack who read these types of books, right? Like, oh, these are for books for people who don't read or da da da. And I'm like, bro, like some people like practical advice, right? Some people like need to learn how to like function in systems that aren't designed for them to lose. Okay? Maybe they need to understand power structures. I can't speak for her. I can speak for myself. Some of us are neurodivergent, and so we're not pre-programmed to be manipulators and liars. So they have to learn how to do that and learn how to do that and how to detect when other people are doing that. And then the last track, we have Flowers. Just giving herself her flowers first and foremost, which is the most important. And it does pick up the track. It helps close out everything. And I do like the flowers for both Nicki Minaj and Nipsey Hussle. And I think specifically with Nicki Minaj, as a retired barb myself, I feel like due to her own actions, realistically, for being honest, her legacy has been tarnished and people forget what she actually contributed. Throughout this album, Tierra's talking about having sons. How are you a goat with no farm? Stuff like that. So she's always alluding to legacy, and obviously by creating this entire piece, legacy is important to Tierra and presumably Nicki Minaj, and to me it is important to me, which is why I like projects that are like this. Let's get down to my final overall thoughts. I like the theme. I also think it's very, very creative. I thought this was a very unique idea and a unique concept, and how it was executed was very well. I do like the way that the album flowed. However, I feel like if you're someone like me who does not listen to Tierra Whack often, hearing them out of context, like a few songs I just heard, you know, randomly, and I was just like, I don't know about this. I don't want to listen to spoken word. I want to listen to music. Like I want to dance. Or not dance, so like I want to vibe. These tracks seem like they have to be listened to in order for them to sound good. It seemed kind of slow, and it kind of seemed like that spoken word type of rap, which is fine, but it's just not for me. I don't want to listen to that on a regular. I would have to have a reason to listen to it. Like I don't listen to J. Cole. I don't really listen to Kendrick like that unless it's like a high energy beat or like something that's like somewhat melodic or danceable or like inspiring, like the whole Wakanda soundtrack. That was cool. I like that. And then sometimes with like this type of rap, it's like there's so many things, and she said it explicitly that she wants people to listen to it again and get more out of it, but there's just so many things you can't like enjoy the line for a second before there's something else to digest. And I'm like, I don't want to do all that work. As you could tell, I'm very cognitively engaged in my day-to-day life, and like when I want to listen to music and dance, I just want to like have a good time. That's why I prefer pop rap or trap soul, you know, melodic rap, that type of stuff. R&B that has like some more rap. Key Glock also just came out recently, and I was just like, I love me some Key Glock. It's because he's funny and I love his mwah ad libs. It makes me think I'm listening to like Megan Thee Stallion. But anyway, I'm digressing. I'm going beyond the scope of what I meant to say. Like, there's very few instances where you can like pick like, oh, these 6 songs are my favorite songs and just like randomly listen to them unless you already like her style of music. When I was doing research about her fan base or like any type of promotion for this mixtape, most of her fans are men and white women from what I could tell. Now, I do admit my main source was the hellscape that is Twitter. So take that for what you will, but that's just what I noticed. People, when they listen to female rap, they like the characters. They like the personas. It's like WWE for women. It's like kayfabe, right? There has to be something that the audience can like latch themselves onto. And this is like a completely tangent aside now at this point. I can't really speak for more people within the female rap community. I can just speak from my perspective. And I'm probably gonna cancel for saying this, but her raps feel gender neutral. And that's great. That's why so many men like her music, by how I assume, because I'm not a man. I'm gonna assume that why they like it. Listening to Tierra's other album, from my perspective, is a disconnect between her and the audience at large. Yes, music is art and music is creativity. And with Tierra, her work seems too artistic or too avant-garde from my external perspective. When you compare her lane to other female rappers, particularly mainstream rappers, it's like too technically correct, I guess you could say. It's too well done to the point where it just doesn't resonate. It just feels more artistic, like sonnets or poetry versus expressive music, if that makes sense. But to me, the stuff doesn't resonate as much. And I feel like with a lot of other female rap, you can feel more of a sense of community or like solidarity or relatability around the music, even though they're talking about their cat. It's it could be your cat, you know? Yeah. And yes, Tierra Whack is talking about like how she's the best and how she's looking for new competitors, but it's not the same type of confidence that's like other more mainstream pussy rappers, you know, give. So, hell, even Missy Elliott, we're just talking about Missy Elliott. She's a pussy rapper. She would be, you know, trying to diffuse it with soulful-facing humor, but she was talking about getting her cat scratched repeatedly. And nobody ever calls her out. Nobody ever says anything about that. Okay? Discriminating, prejudice, bias. She's a pussy rapper too. She's just weird, like Doechii. And I say all that to say, like, I understand Tierra Whack's position. Obviously, she's very skilled and talented. I'm not saying that she's not skilled or talented. Personally, I just like my raps with a little bit of pussy in them, you know? Just a little bit. I think actually a lot of it. I was talking about how I go to museums, whatever. When I'm traveling just with my significant other or just for myself for leisure, I like to go to museums and the places, but I also like to go to gentlemen's clubs too, because I like to see the art and I like to see the arts. And in fact, like my name, Vesper Cognac, part of it is because I had went to this strip club in Boston. There was only one black dancer and her name was Cognac. And I was the only black woman patron there. So it was, you know, I saw her. Obviously, we didn't stay that long. We left. We didn't stay that long. To wrap things up, we're going to take a look at the grading rubric and see how she scores. On the screen, I'll put up some of this information as we go through it. I really do like the concept of this mixtape, and I do think that everything's tied together to create a cohesive idea and express it very clearly. And I like that it ties into her name, Wax Museum, and also like Madame Tussauds Wax Museum by paying homage to all these different cultural like influences. I think it's really, really cool. It's clearly a celebration of Blackness, Black American culture on Juneteenth. So in terms of like production and some of the other technical things, the raps are really, really good, except for all the feces and all the poop bars. Why are we doing this? Why is this a thing? The production is really phenomenal, and I think it complements her voice. And I do like when the samples that they chose and how they use them, as well as them using voices as texture to kind of create more immersive experiences, right? However, I would detract points because of, like I said, the pacing if we take things out of context. And this is another thing I want to mention. It pissed me off too. All these people, these 2-minute songs here. Songs are not this short. It's to the point now, my daughter's 4 years old. When we're going to like school in the morning or whatever, and we're playing a song, if the song is hitting 3 minutes, she's asking me if I'm playing the song again. Heaven forbid it goes over 4 minutes. She's asked me to change that bitch. Change it now. She's literally a 4-year-old child. So her attention span being on 0 makes sense. But like, is this the world we're conditioning people to be in, where they can't listen to songs for longer than 2.5 minutes? But it's a mixtape, so you know, there's that. The file submission, because I didn't check right away, so that one I'm just gonna assume that it was fine and went well. And by the time I did check it, all the files seemed to be there. Presentation, I didn't really see any promotion whatsoever. I only found out about it because I just happened to be able to catch a new Music Friday stream. So I didn't know it was coming out. The majority of the point sauce would be on that. But anyway, I followed this rap page now so I could see when the girls are dropping. So apart from that, I think that it was really, really good. I would say it's good. This is A-range work, but I'm more curious what you think. Did you listen to this mixtape? Did you like this mixtape? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, everything you encounter is by design. So until next time, I'm Rubric.